David Ogilvy was one of the first people to write and speak about the idea of company culture as an enduring source of competitive advantage. And I increasingly come to realize that it's true, partly because, actually for more reasons than I think David Ogilvy realized, that if you have a fairly consistent culture, it allows you to accommodate a far greater range of brain types within the same organization while still functioning. I was terrified recently because I met someone who was quite interested in getting into advertising, and he's got an Oxford degree in philosophy and theology. And he's actually got a first-class degree in philosophy and theology, which is a pretty serious achievement. But he couldn't really get a job or even an interview with any of the mainstream consulting firms because they're basically looking for engineers. And my argument, this is an extraordinarily dangerous state of affairs, where so much business advice is being given by people of a very particular mental typology. That's not to say the engineering mentality isn't valuable in problem solving. It's in many cases essential. But you can't only have engineers. I always think that, you know, China is marked by the fact that I think all but one of the Politburo effectively has a degree in some kind of engineering. So you see that partly in the Chinese obsession with infrastructure projects. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's, you know, for a stage, I think that kind of infrastructure development is important. But you might argue, I mean, actually, it's worth noting that the Chinese high-speed rail network doesn't make any money at all. It's a massive drain on the economy, in fact. Now, you might argue that in that stage of economic development, heavy investment in engineering projects is not a bad place to start. But ultimately, you'll need other skills. And the biased tendency of, you know, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and to a man with an engineering degree, everything looks like an engineering opportunity or problem. And so one great thing about having a company culture is it allows you to accommodate and embrace people of different personality types and different skill sets more widely. But I think, Dave, I mean, it's worth noting that the Ogilvy culture is polarizing. It's what we call in Britain Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And people who like it tend to stay, and actually quite often when they leave, they tend to come back again. It's a recognizable cultural type. Some people love it, some people don't. If you don't like it or you don't thrive with it, freely admit, get out, because one of the things you always notice in advertising is, Jeremy Bullmore wrote about this, true in marketing in general. You know, you get people who are huge high flyers in one agency, they move to another agency and kind of disappear from sight. You equally get the opposite effect, where people who are considered and also ran at J. Walter Thompson will move to, say, BBDO, and suddenly enjoy a glittering career. The cultural fit is much, much more important than I think anybody acknowledges. We like to pretend we achieve everything we do through our own efforts and talents, but in truth, it's the ability to find people with similar values, I think, around you. Very, very good psychologist who worked for a very high-end headhunter in London said this to me. He said, you can compromise, you want diversity in everything except values. You know, fundamentally, you need to have people who share the same values. And, you know, I'd find it very difficult to work in a place. I appreciate those places, but those kind of places where you're expected to miss your child's nativity play in order to show your commitment to work. I'd find it very difficult to work in that kind of culture. You know, I think an acknowledgement of kind of work-life balance is something where Ogilvy, I don't think it gets it right, but at least it makes the right noises in that direction. It doesn't have a culture of complete corporate masochism or anything like that.